Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas with another episode of Veterans in Politics. Today we're going to have Russell Zitch, who's going to discuss the corruption of family court judicial candidate Jason Stoffel. Mr. Stoffel is married to Amanda Roberts, and the show is going to be in memory of Mr. Zitch's son, Cody Zitch. So we're going to take a timeout for that. Jim, how you doing?
Good.
And before you get into your public service announcement or rants, I just want to express my condolence to the Lloyd family. Mindy Lloyd lost her husband because of COVID, and Mindy Lloyd is the judicial executive assistant for Judge William Kephart. So our thoughts are prayers out to the Lloyd family. And we forgot to mention this last week too about Herman Cain. We've met Herman Cain several times when he first ran for president. And I just wanted to express our condolence for the loss of Herman Cain as well. All right, Jim.
Okay. Well, I mean, so those of you who follow me on Facebook already know that I already posted something on Facebook about it. So the whole purpose behind this show is you need to get to know, and it's something that's been frustrating me for, I don't know, a couple years now, that I really started getting focused on it. So just to start off, number one, I see so much stuff on Facebook, all these cute memes about, now we got Kamala Harris and how she enjoys being on her knees and all that. You know, that's really cute. That adds a lot to the debate, right? I mean, it's just, and I'm not trying to take away from social media, and I'm definitely not, and I'll just say it proudly right now, I'm definitely not voting for Biden and Kamala Harris. I'm not voting for that ticket. But I don't think that adds a lot to the debate. So my point is this. So we talk a great deal about how politicians can't be trusted. And they're all liars, and they're thieves, and they're this and that. We hear this stuff all the time.
Not all of them are liars.
No, they're not. But the problem is that one of the things that I tell my leaders that work under me that complain about their team members, I go, well, you get what you tolerate, and you're their boss. So don't come to me complaining about your team member not performing. What are you doing to correct that behavior?
Are you speaking to them right now? Do they watch you, Jim? This is your subtle way of getting the message to them.
Yeah, well, I have been called a ninja a few times in my life. But long story short is, like, we're only going to get what we tolerate out of the politicians, and for some reason we've gotten to the point now where we don't realize that we're the boss of these politicians. So if we elect bad people, then it's our fault. And where I want to go just one step further real quick is with the media in general. So the purpose behind this show is so that we get to know these candidates at a more personal level. So our guest today is going to talk about a judicial candidate, Jason Stoffel. And it's because this candidate, or this guest, knows about certain things about Jason Stoffel just as a person in general and different things
that the average voter won't know.
Right, and promises that have been broken and stuff like that. So that actually, you know, speaks to Jason's character. And that's the whole purpose behind the show. So if you're not going to take the time to educate yourself and truly be informed on it, then quit bitching about these politicians. And you're not holding the media accountable, because if you listen to Fox News, Biden and Kamala Harris, you can't ever vote for them. They're criminals, thieves, whatever. And if you watch CNN or MSNBC or some of the other news networks, then, you know, Trump and Pence are assholes and don't ever vote for them. If you don't formulate your own opinion and do your own research, then don't bitch to me about how politicians aren't doing what you're asking them to do, because they're doing what you'll tolerate.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. Was that it?
Yeah. That's it.
Well, Mr. Russell Zitch have a lot to talk about, Jason Stoffel.
Right.
To put the picture together before we bring him in, apparently he sued Jason Stoffel for a array of things, and one of it is malpractice, blah, 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 blah. But we'll let Mr. Russell tell us exactly what took place. Mr. Russell, how you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you.
I'm calling you Mr. Russell as a Mr. Zitch.
Whatever works for you. That works for me as well. It's not a problem. So I appreciate you having me, for sure.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We had to look for you after we found out that...
I got to tell you, I was very impressed how you found me. I mean, here's a guy that I probably haven't spoken to in 15, 16 years. And my company, I've retired 4 years ago, and I left on really great terms. So he called the company I used to work for.
Mr. Robert Madoff. Yeah.
Right, Mr. Madoff. And one of the guys called me and said, "Hey, this guy looking for you." I'm like, "Oh, great." That's all I need. Everything's been pretty good. I don't know what the deal is. So he said he can help you with legal matters. And I'm thinking, I really don't have any legal matters. Yeah. But after speaking with him, Robert, it was clear the guys had done the homework and found me. And
did you see that article we put?
Yeah, absolutely. I had it sent to me. You sent it to me, and I read it for sure. And yeah, I was impressed that you guys. Well, it's part of what you're just saying right now. It amazes me. I'm 69 years old. The amount of available information that's ignored in this country now is. All these kids are on their phones 24/7. They just, you know.
Including my 12-year-old.
You see this part of their head, you know, because that's all they do. But the bottom line is, if you're interested, there's information always available to find out about these people. And we have a wonderful right in this country, and it's to vote. And it really bugs me, even the simplest votes going back with, you know, simple categories, if you will, we just don't get the turnout I think we should get, because people, I still think I have one vote. What difference does it make? Well, for years I've had a had a coin jar. If you want to see things accumulate, just perfect example. 3 cents one day doesn't mean much, but a year later you're counting $300 worth of change. It adds up. Voting's the same thing. Voting is basically accumulation, and if enough people do it, you're going to be heard. But I totally agree with you in the sense of, if you got something to say and you're not following the protocol of the opportunity of voting or whatever, this is your time to be heard. If you ignore that, shame on you. But don't bitch to me because you're not doing what you're supposed to do, and it's a simple vote. Vote. So,
Mr. Zitch, tell us about you.
A bio.
This won't take long.
You're 69 years old.
Well, I didn't do much. It's you know, you don't have to do much in 69 years.
Well, you served?
I was in the Air Force 4 years.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you for thanking me. That was a really wonderful experience. I recommend it to anyone, especially I feel a lot of people are wandering around lost in a sense. Service was a good deal. And I was a physical training instructor in the service, so I had a really good deal. So I got out, I put myself through school, I used the GI Bill to go to college. I graduated in 3.5 years. And
what was your major?
Physical education.
Okay.
And
what type of degree did you get? Bachelor's?
BA. Yeah, I got a bachelor. So, yeah, 170 credits, whatever it was, but I had a minor in kinesiology, so.
Oh, nice.
And I haven't.
What is that?
It's really the study, the science of movement concerning the muscles and the body. In fact, my big paper, if you will, was on the baseball swing. What all goes into that?
Yeah.
So it's just not the simple, you know.
It's not the same swing with the baseball bat that on Walking Dead with Negan bashing heads.
Very similar, but it's just after a smaller object that's moving. But no, it always interested me, and coming out of the service being a phys ed guy, I've always been an athlete, so followed it up. I never used it a day after I graduated, technically. I was in New Jersey. I graduated from a school in New Jersey, Montclair. And at that time, I was going to teach school, but there were really no jobs available. So the place I was working part-time gave me a job, and I got into the business world, actually. But it was okay. That the piece of paper opened the door. So,
so what brought you to Vegas?
The ex at the time wanted to move, and I had a conference here, and she came with me.
Okay.
And the people that I was working with at the time took her around, and one thing led to another. And I loved living in Chicago. That's where we were in that area.
So you were in Jersey then?
I went from New Jersey to Chicago. I was transferred out there when I got into regional sales. And then I really enjoyed Chicago. She was from Chicago and was sick of it. The weather is something you have to tolerate, but I had no problem with that. But of course she did. So we moved out here. That's 26 years ago. I've been here 26 years. So yeah, it's been a pleasant move, weather-wise especially. I still play golf and that kind of thing. So you can always do that year-round if you want to.
So now we're going to jump right into it.
Do it.
Mrs. Zitch.
Okay.
Tell us about family court.
Okay,
and
family court.
And your first encounter with Mr. Stoffel.
Okay, well, after 27 years of marriage.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, I can't make this up. After that amount of time, my ex at the time decided that she needed a boyfriend. So
after 26 years of marriage?
Yes, and 30 years of being together, actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now she needs a boyfriend.
I guess so, because that's what I was told. So, and although the guy she hooked up with wasn't her type, she married him a year later.
Oh, wow.
So bottom line, though.
Was he younger, older, what?
Older. Had never been married in his 60s.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's a story for another time. But anyway, that being said, I was presented with this in a sense of, now all of a sudden, what do? You're going to get divorced.
Right.
So I approached it as kind of like a business. Like
what year was this, Mr. Russ? I mean,
2012 around, 2011, 2012, end of 2011. So I approached it kind of like if you own a business and you're going to hire somebody to work for you, you kind of interview them.
Right.
So I'd interviewed 2 other people before I got to Stoffel.
Who was it, 2? 2 other attorneys.
Yeah, 2 other attorneys. I can't right off the top remember their names.
Okay.
I have it written down somewhere. I'm sure there's still one guy used to play for the Packers. At least that's his story. I think he was on the jockey team, but that's another deal. But he was just too. We didn't click. I moved on. At any rate, I call Stoffel. I hear his law firm advertised on the radio.
How did he advertise? Did he advertise
just
Roberts
really quick?
And Stoffel?
You know, it was, I don't remember. I think it was just Stoffel.
Because he's got a commercial now.
Right.
Roberts and Stoffel law firm.
Right.
But it was so ironic because the way I see it, he doesn't. It's kind of misleading because people don't know that Roberts and Stoffel are married.
Exactly, they're man and wife.
They're man and wife,
and we'll get into that a little bit.
And if you go to his campaign website, not one. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did you go there? Because I don't see one mention of his wife, Amanda Roberts.
You're totally right.
Who is also a family court attorney,
right?
So why is he trying to distance himself from his wife?
I don't know, and I think she's the push behind his going for judge.
I'd like to know a little bit more why he's distancing himself from his wife.
My observation. It's my opinion technically, but I'll tell you what I know. But at any rate, we met at his office, and he promised me the world. I mean, it was kind of like, I need a $3,000 retainer, which was not unusual for the whole lawyer thing. But I'll tell you, I very seldom use all $3,000. You'll probably get some of that money back. I said, well, whatever. and I'm...
That's a red flag.
Exactly.
Right there.
Well, what do I know?
It's gone, baby.
Like I say, when I wrote the check, I wasn't thinking like, all right, so when do I pick up my end of this?
You're never going to get that back.
You know that. So,
this guy want more.
Well, we'll get to that. So, excuse me, I gave him
the $3,000,
the retainer, and he said things to me like that, and then, just so you know, in looking at your situation, it's a slam dunk.
That's another red flag.
This is the easiest thing going. So,
what was easy? Just you getting a divorce? Or was it?
Yeah. This wasn't going to be too technical.
So, were there any children involved?
No, my son. I have another son, Brandon, and he was 24, I think.
So there was no children involved.
Correct.
It was a 26-year marriage.
We sat down and we had a very nice art collection, and it was like, you take that one, I'll take that. We had standard possessions. Exactly, to a point. It didn't end up that way, but it started that way.
Right.
So the bottom line was, you can have all the Waterford crystal, you can have all the, I don't want any of this stuff. Right. I just want a few pieces of art, and the money is where I want everything being equal and the right thing.
Right.
So
any alimony involved?
Well, we'll get to that too. Oh. So that was the other thing he said to me, and if he was sitting right here, he'd probably deny it, but he said, there won't be any alimony. She had lost every job she had ever had. She was fired from...
And how would he know that? Judges are very unpredictable.
Well, he's telling me from his experience.
And who was the judge in your case, by the way?
Oh, we'll get to that.
Oh, hell.
Yeah, that's another part of the story. Jennifer...
Elliott?
Elliott.
Okay.
Yeah. So...
Who retired 2 years ago, I think.
In one day, by the way. So if you want to look into that, that's an interesting story.
What do you mean?
As well. I'm retiring tomorrow. Out the door. And that's exactly what she did.
Oh, so she was in the middle of your case?
No. She retired in one day.
Oh, yeah.
My attorney now knew what was going on.
Okay.
How do you retire in one day if there isn't some kind of problem or whatever? I don't know enough.
You need to go, or else we're going to file
something's
against
wrong.
you. Yeah.
Something's not making sense.
After before you're told to leave.
Yeah, exactly. You're on the bench for what, 14 years, and all of a sudden, oh, by the way, we won't see you tomorrow. Take your robe with you. Have a nice day.
Take your robe with you. We can't.
That's the way I interpret it. Anyway, so that was the next thing. You're never going to pay alimony. I said, well, it's great because I don't want to pay alimony.
Right.
I had
let the boyfriend pay it.
Well, yeah, I had set the ex up in a business of window coverings.
Right.
She had no credit, so basically she was using my credit to establish
her credit.
The business. Well, yeah, but you can't do it using my credit card.
Right.
And that's what she was doing. I upped the amount 3 or 4 different times for her. Mm-hmm. But she was also, that's another story. We won't even get into that.
There's a lot of stories, Mr. Zitch.
Exactly. You'll find this interesting.
I hope you melt them all together.
I will. Okay. It comes to a big rush down the hill. No problem. So that being said, that was one of the issues. The only reason I'm even bringing it up to you is one of the issues that we had to discuss.
Right.
For the most part, 70% of it was amicable in the sense of, you take this, I'll take that, that kind of thing.
Right.
So I had an IRA, and it was worth a couple, into the hundred thousands. Don't even know the exact number. And she had a separate IRA that she would never let me put my name on. So right there, you think back and you're thinking, well, there's a reason for that, and there sure was.
It's a community statement.
Yeah, exactly. So that being said, hers had like 56,000 in it, and the other one was obvious. We're going to split it down the middle and go our own way. So in discussing that with him, first he arranged a conference brief, and I don't know if you know what that is, but it's almost like a sidebar in the sense of if we can remedy all this, we don't have to go in front of the judge and get a date, whatever. We have a individual, he's a judge, but he's not really practicing right now, but he will negotiate what's going on here.
So you went to mediation?
Basically, that's what it is. Okay, so we meet, the four of us, her and her attorney, me and Stoffel. The guy's name is...
Who was her attorney, by the way?
Carol Meminger is her name. And I don't know if she's even still practicing. She was pretty up in the years when we were going through all this. So anyway, not to put anybody to sleep with all these details, but the bottom line was that we met in the courthouse in a private room, and we're supposed to get this judge. He got sick, so now we get Hardcastle, his name is. Judge
Gerald.
Yeah. He comes in with a chip on his shoulder, basically, and says to me, okay, you've been married for 27 years. You're going to pay about $800 to $1,000 a month alimony.
Right off the bat?
Right out of the chute. So Stoffel's sitting here next to me. I look at him and he's not saying anything.
Didn't even argue it?
No. I said, hey, what? Well, let's hear it. I go, no, that's a no. That's not happening.
No.
You're way out of line.
You're
not going to say no. I'll get up and say no. It's not a problem. Well, they understand that I went through, I go, that's it. I said, you need meet me outside. Let's get outside. So I pulled Stoffel out. I said, are you listening to the same thing I am? I said, you're speaking up a little late on this. You're not saying anything.
Right.
Well, I just wanted to, no is no. When that came out of his mouth, you should be, hold on, that's not happening. We're looking for zero alimony. Yeah. I'm giving her a business plus half of everything, and then I'm supposed to still pay her
after she went with boyfriend.
Exactly.
And you hired a mouthpiece that's not really being a mouthpiece.
He's not saying two words. So we go back in, and he was so abrasive that even they said to the whole thing. I mean, even to Meminger, her attorney, she was like, you could see, she's like, no, we're out of here. So we got out, $3,500 down the drain.
For nothing.
For nothing.
To get
20 minutes of...
You could have screwed yourself for free.
Exactly. I don't have to pay to get screwed. This is ridiculous. So we get out, and he, next day, come to my office, blah, blah, blah. Well, the clock's running, $80 to $120 an hour every time. Now the $3,000 is up till by maybe 9 or 10.
And that $3,000 that you're supposed to get back some of it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's, I'll check the mailbox every day. But anyway, we now get to the point where we need a court date.
Right.
So in his office is a picture of him and a judge, and they're kind of hugging, and I'm like, who's that? And he says, oh, that's Jennifer Elliott. We are tight. We're really tight.
So that's what he told
I'm
you.
trying very hard to get Judge Elliott, because if we get Judge Elliott,
see, that's the problem with collusion and corruption right there. Is
exactly.
The way these attorneys claim to be tight.
And naive me, and I'm not naive about most things, but I'm thinking, that sounds great. Here you are with that picture. Geez, you're all over each other. This is a good thing.
You should have took a picture of that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I should have. So, and he tells me, he's got all this idea that, this is easy, no problem here.
Yeah, that's what he's told you the first time.
Exactly right. So no problems continue, but I'm wasting money. So the bills keep coming in, and he has a woman who works with him named Missy DeJong, and I think she's still there. And she becomes my contact person, because if I need something, he's not always answering the phone and that kind of thing. So push comes to shove, and there's a couple of small issues. We meet at Meminger's office, just the four of us. And we sit down.
Your wife's attorney's office.
Yeah, just like this. Little smaller table, but same deal.
Social distancing, that's
well, we didn't even have to in those days. You could cough on anybody you wanted to. So the bottom line was that we were going to hash all this out, write it up, get our court date, and have this done. So we said, he's sitting right next to me. Meminger said, as far as her IRA and your IRA, should we combine them, cut it in half, and you pay the difference because you have more in yours? Or you just want her to give you half and you're going to give her half?
But let me ask you about that IRA, because the way it works, my understanding is whatever you contribute during the marriage, then half belongs to the spouse.
We decided without cutting into
So the whole thing was
everything.
Contributed during the marriage?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with 26
Okay,
years,
so yeah, you
sure.
should combine it.
So even,
Split it.
why nitpick? I mean, just throw everything together.
Right, 156.
Exactly.
Plus,
Well, what it is, and it was a little more. I had another IRA, and that was from a company that bought the company out that I was working for with flooring.
Right.
And it was like worth maybe, I don't know, 10, 12,000.
Right.
So out of the blue, she says, hey, I get half of that IRA as well. I'd even forgotten about it. I said, well, let me call and see if I can break it up, because they're hard to break up sometimes.
Yeah.
So I call, and the woman I talked to said, this is foolish. By the time you're done breaking it up, you'll get about $2,500 each if you're lucky.
Especially if it's a Roth IRA.
Right. So I call Meminger on my own, and I say, here's what I was told. She goes, okay, well, let's do this. You keep the IRA.
You didn't use Stoffel to make that call for you?
No, I did not.
No?
I did not, because we talked about it right here. I called him first.
She took your call?
Yep.
She spoke to you?
Yep, she did.
She didn't refer you back to your attorney?
Nope, because she was the one that came up with the idea of let's do this.
That might be considered ex parte. But
exactly, but the point is, no problem. If that's what you want to do, let's do it. So I called her back, and all she had to say is go through Jason. No. She said to me, okay, well, we'll think of something else. I'm purposely trying not to talk to my ex, because it's always a shitstorm. It's just not worth it.
Right.
So as it comes out, the ex says, okay, we had some Disney stock. I'll take the Disney stock, and you can have your IRA. And it's stated that way in our divorce decree.
Right.
So I said, perfect. The joke about that is she was the custodian for this, for my son, Brandon. It's not hers.
Right.
So in 2013, they stopped issuing the certificates. Brandon gets all that. It went from like maybe 6,000 up to 40-some thousand.
Who's your son from a prior?
No, that's our joint son. This was our oldest son.
Oh, then she shouldn't have a problem.
Cody was
with that.
younger. Cody's the one that passed. Right. So, yeah, I mean, but she thinks she's getting the Disney stock because she and Brandon now don't talk anymore. They haven't spoken in 7 years as we sit here right now. So she thinks she's going to cash this in. Well, you're the custodian. You don't get to cash it in. It's his.
Right.
His name's on it. You're taking care of it until he's 21 years old.
So now she has nothing to barter with. So
she's done. This is over. So
Disney stock is
the point
back on
was
the
what
table.
she asked for, she got nothing, and I kept my IRA. So I made out in that deal.
Right.
Split some insurance things, money-wise. So we're ready to roll.
Okay.
Both our IRAs are in Fidelity Investments up there in Henderson.
Okay.
So we sign the divorce decree. We get July of whatever year, 2012, I think it was. So we sign off. We're divorced.
How long did it take you to get divorced?
Well, it took a couple months for sure. I mean, it was like...
So you got divorced, and the property is still in litigation?
Well, technically, we have to meet a Fidelity and divide it up.
Okay.
It's ready to go. So I meet her up there, and we pull everything out, and I say, what do I need to sign to give her half? What does she need to sign to give me half? Well, I owe you nothing. Your attorney forgot to put my money into the decree. So you owe me half of yours, and I don't owe you anything.
Oh,
Totally
so Stoffel then
overlooked. Stoffel totally missed it.
That's malpractice.
That's malpractice. Blatant malpractice. So I go...
So Stoffel should pay you out of his pocket.
Well, here we go. So we stop the music, and I go, I got to make a phone call. I call and I get Missy, I'm telling you, Misty.
His secretary,
Right. Hey, you guys forgot to enter her numbers. She has numbers? I said, you have all her information. Plus, he sat next to me.
Now they're playing stupid.
Yeah. He sat next to me and heard what we're going to do. He blew it. He missed it. I'm out $27,000 just on this alone. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll have Jason call you. I said, well, just so you know, I'm leaving. I'm not signing anything till we get this squared away.
Right.
So long story short, he gets me another court date. And we're going to go back and fix this, okay, in front of Jennifer
Elliott.
Elliott.
That he's cozy with in the photo.
Good friends.
Yes.
Here we are. So this takes another month.
He should be recusing himself from her, or vice versa.
Right. So here we are. We got this court date, and I'm thinking, okay, she'll say, no problem, it's overlooked. You need half, blah, blah, blah. We get in, and she says, I don't know enough about this case, but it's called Grisham versus Grisham. And I do need to read up on it, but I'm going to use it against you guys, meaning me and Stoffel. So Mrs. Zitch gets to keep the money, and you're out. You're out on your ass.
Wow.
So here we are. I'm like, what do you plan on doing about this? Okay?
And this is $27,000 that you're going to get without any kind of confrontation.
It's mine.
You're going to get that.
Splitting this, and there's other monies. It adds up to about $6,000.
So she took half of yours
and all of hers.
And all of hers.
Because he failed to do his job.
Right.
And if you want to argue that, go ahead. But guess what? You are
incompetent.
Exactly. And that's the only thing you can say. But this gets better.
Okay. Better than that?
Well, there's another good one.
$33,000 from I want to kill you.
This one too. This adds nicely to the pile. Okay. So we get out in the hallway, and I say to him, "What do we do?" I'm going to look into a couple things for you. Blah, blah, blah.
For you? No, he's looking for you, for him, because he's the incompetent one.
And says to me, "Well, really, this is your fault,
right?
Because you didn't pick up on it.
Don't try to act like it's mine.
I hired you to defend me and do the right thing here." And you're telling me this is my fault? Then why would I need you?
He said it's your fault?
This is my fault. I missed it.
Didn't you backhand him?
You have no idea what was running through me right about that.
Because apparently stupid was in his head.
And Missy's there because she's thinking, I need to be there. I have emails from her saying, we screwed up. We missed this.
But it's your fault.
But it's my fault. Well, we didn't know. I said, he sat right next to me. He knows, and he drove me to Memiger's office. So on the way back, we went over everything. This is nothing to be surprised about. I mean, he missed it.
He owes you money.
Exactly.
And a free attorney because he screwed up.
Well,
to make amends.
He charges me to go back to court.
Oh, after he screwed up, he charges
me
you.
to go back to court, and I tell him I'm not paying $2,700. Sends me another bill for $1,700. He takes $1,000 off because he's a great guy.
Yeah. No, that's free, and he needs to pay for your time and your aggravation.
Right. So meanwhile, Jennifer up there, she's having a whatever. She could care friggin' less. She's favoring Meminger and my ex for whatever reason, and taking for granted this is the woman that started all this, my ex.
So the reason why she's favoring the other side is because she knows that her buddy Jason Stoffel is getting money out of this deal.
Well, so how come Stoffel didn't say, Judge, I screwed up, take responsibility for it?
He stood up and he made an analogy that to this day made no sense. He was talking about buying a car and not getting tires on it or something. I mean, it was just, when he was fit, the bailiff was even like, what is he talking
Well,
about?
why didn't he just say, look, I forgot to add it in the divorce decree.
Exactly.
It's my fault.
Now I'm reading Grisham versus
amends.
Grisham, but by the way, if you look it up, it has nothing to do with anything we've talked about. I don't know where she dug this up. And then to admit, I really haven't spent time with this, but I'm still holding it against you. And I'm like, did you hear what she just said? He's like, just let the judge, you know, let the judge talk. And I'm like,
because that's his buddy.
I'm like flat panned here now. I'm like, what do we do? So, done. We're out. We're out in the hallway. I'm like, so where do we go? Call me this week. I'm gonna look into a couple things. Blah blah blah. Okay.
While he's still milking you for money.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I got billed for going back to court to get my money, which I didn't get.
He screwed up on.
Which I didn't get. So I call him. You know, at the end of the week, he's not taking my calls.
Oh, you
That's
surprised?
strange. That's strange. So Missy is like my contact person now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here's another little edge for you guys that you'll really appreciate.
Right.
While we're in court, my ex is in a hurry because she's going to move in with her boyfriend.
Right.
Her parents are very religious, so they're not going to accept her moving in until she's divorced.
And how old is she?
She at the time, 50s, 53.
And her parent was.
Oh yeah. That's another story for another time.
Okay.
So
lots of stories.
And I just want you to know, when the smoke clears, I'm very fortunate to be away from it. I have a excuse me, a very beautiful, lovely
wife.
Yes, a little choked up with her once in a while, but she's. I rebounded.
God works in mysterious ways, my friend.
I rebounded nicely. So that being said, we got to the point. I love you, honey, if you're watching this.
He loves you. What's her name?
Her name's Cindy. Cindy Kelly, actually.
Cindy Russell loves you. Okay.
So that all being said, I get to a point now where he is meeting with my ex, her mother, and Meminger privately.
Without you?
Without me. He wants me to stay at the bench because he doesn't want me to, and I quote, erupt. I'm like, okay, if you want me to stay here, you better keep me informed of what's going on.
Right.
And I'm telling you this for a reason, and I'm getting to it.
Okay.
He comes back and forth at least 3 times.
And folks, you notice Mr. Zitch has no notes in front of him. This is all memory.
I don't need them. I live this. So the bottom line was, he's coming back and forth. How about we give them a little alimony?
What?
I said, I told you I don't want to do alimony at all.
Why is he backpedaling? Is he going to pay the alimony?
Of course not. So he says, I got it down to about $200 a month.
No.
So I said, I'm in no hurry here. The bottom line is that she is. So why are you? You're kind of like favoring her at this point. So he goes back in, comes back out. Now the judge gets involved. I think $200 alimony is fair.
For what?
Exactly. I'm giving you just about everything I can give you.
And what about the 27 or 30-something thousand dollars?
Well, that happened after, so nobody even knows about that until we go back in for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Okay. So the bottom line is, he comes back and forth. Judge Elliott gets involved. Whatever. Okay. She's going to get married here within a year. I can do $200 a month for a year, and then I'm off the hook. Okay?
I would have stuck to my...
Oh, I was just livid, but I'd had it. Well, here's the best part.
I'll take the money out of the attorney's fees.
He enters it as a non-modifiable. Do you know what a non-modifiable is?
Please explain.
A non-modifiable guarantees her 6 years of alimony even when she remarries.
Wow.
And Jason Stoffel entered it into my divorce decree and cost me another $14,000 in 6 years by doing that.
On top of the 30-something thousand dollars that he screwed up on.
And the $200 I could come up with, no problem. but it's principle. This thing never goes away. Every month you have to pay her.
And you have constant aggravation.
Exactly.
Mental anguish.
A divorce
it's not a
is...
payment you want to make.
Yeah.
It's
tough enough.
Disturbing.
Yeah.
It's disruptive. It's unhealthy. I mean, you read the hardest things to do in life, divorce is right up there.
Yeah, you could have gotten another car and made some payments on it.
Well, exactly. Whatever I want to do with $200, take you guys to dinner. It doesn't matter. It's my money.
Yeah.
Right.
So the point is, for 6 years, 72 months, because he put it in as a non-modifiable, and I want you to know something, never explained that to me. I'm thinking she's going to get married. I'm off the hook. And I knew she was getting married. I mean,
so he didn't tell you what the legal terms were?
Never explained it.
So why you even hired him? You probably could do better on your own.
Absolutely. Oh, I know I could at this point. But the point is, now we're to this point. It's almost over. Let's move on. Let's do the right thing here.
And this is the guy that wants to be a judge.
He's going to be a judge. Yeah. He has no business being an attorney if you're not going to do your job properly. So now you're going to elevate your position to judge.
Did you file a state bar complaint against him?
I did. 2. And they were both basically rejected.
Wasn't he president of the Nevada State Bar?
No, he was president of the Clark County Bar Association.
Right.
Clark County Bar.
Right.
He shouldn't have even been president of that.
I was just curious.
But why did the state bar reject it? Although people need to understand that a lot of these people that are part of the disciplinary committee,
that's exactly
are
right.
friends with a lot of
the guy
these
that signed the complaint after it took 4.5 months to get it back to me.
Right.
And I did a really good job of organizing, sending a letter, showing proof of what happened and all. He sent me a 3-line return. Like, we looked it over, you're out. If you care to reapply, do it. They were on Charleston at the time, not too far.
They're still in Charleston.
Yeah. So I went by and I reapplied, and 3 months later, same thing, you're out. So
that's justice for you.
Yeah, it is. And so I hooked up with a consultation attorney to see what my rights were.
Did you do a fee dispute?
No. Well, I take that back. I think I did down the line. But regardless, it didn't. At that point, the clock was ticking. So a friend of mine introduced me to Shawana Johnson, who's my attorney now, and she's great.
Okay.
She and I went at this thing, and what happened was, it was blatant malpractice.
So Stoffel caused you to hire another attorney.
Exactly right. So that cost me about $8,000 or $9,000.
On top of the 14.
Everything.
On top of the 33.
You're keeping track of the...
On top of the mental anguish and the frustration and the time involved.
Meanwhile, not a word from him. No, gee, I screwed up.
No apology.
None. He didn't do anything wrong.
Of course not.
He didn't do anything wrong. So now I've got 6 years of a $217 payment, which if you don't think that doesn't get in your crawl space. And I called the office and I said, hey, Missy, well, the way he worded it, I said, why wouldn't he, number one, explain it to me? And why would you do a non-modifiable?
And why would he even ask you if that's okay with you?
That's to protect you. To protect me from what? Myself?
So you don't have to pay it for more than 6 when you didn't want to pay it at all?
It's not gonna get any bigger. It just it's what it is.
So you probably paid for your ex-wife's wedding.
Oh, I know I did. And they got married in a nice place, so I'm sure.
Thank you very much, Mr.
I'm good about my money.
You're a hell of a guy.
Don't even thank me. You know what? Just get in line with everybody else. That's what you need to do. No problem. But no, that's, to me, blatant malpractice with no remorse.
None.
Just not even a, boy, I got to tell you, I really, he thinks, he's pompous enough to think that he doesn't do anything wrong. And and we were talking.
And they call litigants that appear before the courts narcissists. A lot of these judges are narcissists,
absolutely.
And attorneys are narcissists themselves.
They battle with each other just for that reason. I mean, and Shawana has been nothing but spot on. She's always done the work. She's really worked hard to get us to that point, but then the time restraint.
So you filed suit against Stoffel?
Right.
Okay, on on what grounds?
What you listed in your article, basically.
Well, I got camera over here.
Sorry. I'll read it to you if you want to know. Defamation of character. I mean, not defamation. Escapes me. Malpractice.
Malpractice.
And that was proven, basically.
Okay.
And of course, personal strain, trauma,
mental anguish.
whatever.
Yeah.
There were 4 different categories, and basically we brought it as far as we could bring it. And
where did it go?
Supreme Court even agreed with us, and then Judge Bayless threw it out, and that was the end of it.
Mark Bayless threw it out, who no longer sits on the bench.
Exactly right.
Who was appointed and never elected.
He got outvoted, which was terrific in my estimation. But yeah, so we in fact, I went with Shawana to, see the outcome, whatever. She was trying to get, something done, and we just didn't do it.
So how much were you looking for?
I wanted my money back. I wanted my $27,000 that technically I lost. I wanted reparation for even like the money that I was paying in alimony that was not considered a non-modifiable, which was absurd. No reason for that, but he did it anyway.
How about attorney's fees?
And attorney fees, yeah.
Even the attorney's fees that you paid?
We called it like $50,000, just rounded it off basically, and I thought was a fair number. And I didn't get a nickel.
And the statute of limitations?
Knocked us out, basically, yeah. So I never got a nickel.
Well, that's very unfortunate.
Well, the bottom line is it should be a message to anyone, and hopefully your audience gets bigger and bigger and sees the job you guys are doing to educate people on how something which becomes a slam dunk instantly turns into a shitstorm. And that's exactly what happened. And you make a good point, because the bottom line is there's so much anguish. I'm not a vengeful person. I mean, I've never been in trouble with the law. I mean, I've been a straight shooter, if you will, and just always have been, above board with everything.
Right.
You all of a sudden get cast into this kind of ugly web that you're fighting to get out of the whole time, and it's all about money. Nobody cares. It's all about money. And Shawana certainly cared, and she was the first one. But by the time I met her, the damage was done, and everything was,
Who represented Stoffel for this lawsuit?
Oh, what was the name of them? Gibbs? That sounds familiar. I can look it up for you. I just don't remember. I can definitely text you with it. But yeah, they had 2 or 3 attorneys that basically would show up to get this done. And you were talking about his wife, and she never was involved.
Amanda Roberts.
Yes, she was never involved with my case at all. I briefly met her one time at a distance even. That's my wife over there. Hi. And that was about it. And the word always was she was the driver. She was always going to tell him. When we were trying to get something done, we heard, nothing but she's aggravated, she's this, she's that kind of thing. She wasn't happy with anything.
This is Stoffel talking to you?
No, this is us picking stuff up from, various people at the court. And
well,
so that's my tale of woe, and it's over now. I mean, what do you do? I mean, you can't fix it at this point.
So let me just recap, and Jim, you could
please jump in.
So Jason Stoffel, this is his second time running for
he got defeated the first.
Yeah, when he ran against Vincent Ochoa in 14. So now he's running against I believe it's Nadine Cutter.
I looked it up this morning. You're right.
In this election, so he failed. He failed to put the was it the trust? No, sorry.
No, the IRAs.
The IRAs
supposed to be
from the
split evenly.
From soon to be ex-wife.
Her value
into the divorce decree, which is about $50-something thousand, right?
She had $56,000 in it.
And you were entitled to half of that.
Right.
So he failed to put it in there.
Right.
He was never apologetic.
Never.
He never showed any kind of empathy or compassion, or even addressed the court to accept responsibility for failing to do that. And that's his job as an attorney.
In his estimation, when I went back to the office, he, Missy, and another attorney, the four of us were in there, and the other attorney was like, this should be no problem. You're going to go back in there. You're going to say, basically, this is what occurred. We didn't enter it. We agreed verbally, which has strength, by the way. Yeah. If you sit there as a group and say, let's split everything. Let's put it, do you want to put it in a pile? Or do you just want to separate it and you pay him and I pay? And
in this state, there's 4 years for statute of limitation on verbal agreements, by the way.
Right, exactly right.
As long as you have witnesses to comply
you know, like I said,
with.
That was why the four of us even met.
And then he's costing you another what? $14,000 for an alimony that you shouldn't even be paying for.
Exactly.
And plus he's charging you billable hours to appear in court and write motions, talk to you on the phone for something that shouldn't even happen. That was totally his fault to begin with.
A friend of mine calls me and says, hey, got some good news for you. I said, what? The ex is getting married. I said, oh, to the boyfriend that she has nothing in common with and doesn't care for, they're getting married. Good. Right. So I don't care who she marries, as long as she gets married.
Right.
So he said, yeah, it's in December, I think it was, blah, 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 blah. I said, perfect. So I call the office and say, do I just stop sending money now because she's married, whatever? You have a non-modifiable.
So he puts this non-modified into your order,
right.
Which you're thinking, because you're a layman, thinking that, hey, you know, I'll pay alimony until she gets married and I'm done. Which like anybody would think that.
10 months.
But then he failed to tell you that's not the case.
The only reason I agreed to any alimony is because I know she was going to get married.
Right.
And if you Google whatever on your phone right now, and look at alimony in Nevada, it says alimony's paid for 3 reasons. One of it's education, one of it's support. The bottom line is when you get to the point where the ex remarries, you stop paying.
Yeah.
So I'm like, cool, I looked that up.
You thought you were
I'm great.
$200, you're done.
I'm sitting by myself that night like, wow.
On an alimony you made clear that you didn't want to pay in the first place.
Exactly right. I only did it just because I know it was going to end shortly, and it got me out of the court, and we're ready to roll here.
And then he gives you a false sense of security, telling you, hey, look at me with the judge and the picture on my desk. We are friends. We're buddies.
They are hugging.
Yeah.
And like, they're both like, oh, this is great. And
which he shouldn't have been before anyway.
And that's a standard photo in his office.
Right. They should have recused each other. Either the judge should have recused or he should have recused.
And then, like I say, she brings up Grisham versus Grisham when I'm trying to get my money back.
That has nothing to do with your case.
Well, we were handed out this stuff to read before we went into the court. The bailiff came out. You guys need to read this. And I'm thinking, he goes, don't worry about it. I'll handle this. I go, what is it? He goes, well, it's a case. I said, does it work for us or against us? Give me a minute. Give me a minute. So he reads it, never answers me. And we go in. I said, so where are we at?
Because he doesn't want to make the judge look bad.
Well, she pipes right up and says, well, you got the thing I handed out.
Mr. Zitch, a lot of these attorneys, they worry about the next case in front of that judge.
Absolutely.
So if they could get rid of you quietly, they will, because they worry about the next case.
You're right.
They're not really worried about your case now.
It's obvious.
I mean, especially if you already paid them. How much did you pay him total?
I tried to look it up this morning. I couldn't find my whole package. I have it somewhere. I would say between $12,000 and $14,000.
That's something he said that it was only going to be $3,000.
$3,000. I'm probably getting money back.
And then you're going to get some money back.
Yeah, well, we're going to go to dinner or something. That'd be wonderful, you know. Yeah.
So
it's a slam dunk.
So Jason Stoffel totally misled you.
Absolutely. And at the end, not only did he not admit doing anything, and I can't say it's fraudulent, but it certainly shows me that as an attorney, you take an oath. And there's a trust, and I'm not an attorney, so I'm paying you to take care of me. I mean, it sounds almost childish in a sense, but it's what it is. It's like, okay, I don't have to worry about it because you're getting your money. You told me to trust you. You'll take care of it. And every time I turn around, I'm asking him, what are we doing? And please believe me, in the courtroom, he sat there like a mummy half the time. And I'm thinking to myself, when I saw the first Stoffel sign for judge, I'm thinking, seriously?
Yeah.
This guy didn't speak up for me for 2 minutes.
You know, I like to see those videos. If you could give me your case number and on case name, I'll go and get those videos. Jason, don't try to seal the case now, and I'll go and try to get the videos and take a look at that, because we need to make sure that this guy don't get elected.
Well, it's just like I say, it's just, to me, it's so far-fetched that you would think you're qualified to do something when you can't seriously do what you're supposed to do. And through the grapevine, I can't give you for instances or whatever, I know other people have complained about the guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think just to sum it up for me personally is like, and you know, I talked about in the beginning of the, before this episode, I was talking about character, and that's exactly what it is. I mean, it's character issue. Like, mistakes happen. So if he legitimately made that mistake,
he should have fessed up to it.
Just fess up to it, admit to it, and fix it.
And not charge him for his own mistakes.
And that's all gone.
And his, I don't know if she's a legal aid, what her title is, Missy, she admitted it. I mean, when I called her from outside the Fidelity office, hey, you didn't, we didn't know. I said, who's we? I said, that's why we met with her and her lawyer, so there were no gray areas.
Right.
So just real quick, one of the things too I wanted to point, and I'm not, and I appreciate you very much for coming on, so please don't take this the wrong way.
Please.
But what I want to say is like, you know, it's very unfortunate what occurred to you, obviously. But now imagine this person a judge. Like, fortunately for you, even though there was some pain and suffering and you had to go through a lot and pay extra money you didn't want to have to pay or shouldn't have had to pay, you're still okay.
Absolutely.
Now, when you get, imagine.
I'm better than ever, actually.
A family court judge that won't admit to mistakes and is basically, in your case, was pretty much incompetent. If he becomes a judge, mistakes like that, those are just elevated so much more.
Yeah.
You know,
so that's what scares me.
If he's elected, he's going to have people in front of him who are going to make decisions on children.
Right.
And people that have abused each other.
And just to add, he doesn't have any children of his own.
Exactly right. He does not.
Yeah.
And just think, you're standing there, do I put this couple back together, although he slapped her around, but he wasn't intentional, he didn't mean it, you know, let's give him another chance. And that's how people get hurt. And that's how people aren't represented properly.
Or get killed.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So you're now going to let a guy like that, and maybe in talking this we're exaggerating slightly, but think where you live. Las Vegas is not the most docile place. I mean, is that a good word to use at this point? Where you have a lot of people that are influenced, their lifestyle is subpar.
Yeah.
And that being, people argue probably about money more than they do anything. But the bottom line is now, are these people going to abuse each other because you were in front of this guy and he's like, it's okay. He didn't mean it. Let's give him another chance. Let's.
And just to add insult to injury, the state bar didn't do a damn thing for you.
Oh, they did nothing for me. In fact, they hurt me because they held on to my stuff so long.
And the statute ran out.
The statute ran out. And you got to wonder too. I mean,
you ever thought about taking this to federal court?
Here's the problem, Steve. When you get to this point, when is enough enough? Well, how much more money can I pour into this?
And you know that's what they got. That's what they have over people.
Exactly. If this was do it, and if there's something wrong, we'll charge you. No, we want our money up front, and then we'll let you know when we're ready to roll with this, and you can sit tight for a couple years. I have something going on now with Social Security. It's taken them 4.5 years to get back to me. 4.5 years. I don't want to hear how busy you are. You're a government agency. Right. My tax dollars support your salaries and people that work for you. And I can't get an answer for 4.5 years? Yeah. It's just wrong.
Mr. Zitch, could you look into the camera? Because we got the live one on top and then we have the other one, the taping one below.
Okay.
Could you tell the folks why they should not vote for this guy?
Absolutely. If you haven't heard anything...
if you have a point of contact you want to give them.
Okay. If you haven't heard anything, hear this. Malpractice, regardless in some senses that it could be considered not that bad, as you guys said, I'm very fortunate. I bounced back. I had the sources, if you will, to not be devastated by this, but people will be. And if you don't consider a guy like this not capable and you vote for him, or even worse, don't vote, you're going to get what you deserve down the line because you're not supporting this system. The system allows us to make sure people like this don't represent us. And you think back to elections when people get knocked out, there's a reason for that. They're not capable, or they're not being honest enough with the constituents they represent to do their job. So they need to go. And I mean, I'm a big 2-term limit guy, and that's a story for another time as well. But the bottom line is, if someone is not capable of doing what he's supposed to do, you can't have him in that position. And I personally feel he's not capable. So that's where I'm at with it. And I really thank you. And that's really all I got. But I really appreciate having me on and us being able to discuss this. Because before you guys called me, I've been looking constantly for a website or somewhere where I could say, he represented me as an attorney and he was so bad at it, it cost me in the range of about $50,000.
Okay. Well, Russell Zitch, thank you so much for coming on the program and telling us what happened with you to avoid mistakes like this from happening to somebody else. Folks, this is Russell Zitch. I was talking about the judicial candidate, Jason Stoffel, who has misleaded him, who has billed him and had billed him for his own mistakes, kept building him his hourly wage for his own mistakes, who never once admitted that he did something wrong, cost this man over $50,000. And some of you might think that's not a lot of money, but folks that don't have that money, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And you imagine if children were involved, but luckily, Mr. Zitch didn't have one. So we're trying to educate the people. We're trying to educate the voters so they could know more about these candidates running for judicial seats. And that way they can make an educated decision when they put their mail-in ballots and start to vote. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas for Veterans in Politics. Until next time.